first and foremost, for taking time out of your day to join us for our Super Smart Home Buyer Seminar. Today's focus is there is life after financial hardships. So anyone who has had a bankruptcy, if you've had a foreclosure, if you had evictions, any type of financial hardships, that's what this seminar is going to focus on. Just getting you over that hump so that you're not defined by whatever you went through financially. So we brought some experts to you guys today. First of all, we're sponsored today by the Women's Councilof Empire Board of Realtists. We have made the initiative to bring forth some financial literacy to people. So this is a part of our initiative with the Women's Council of the Empire Board of Realtors. And we have some experts with you all today. I'm going to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Shawnee Allridge. I am president of Women's Council of Empire Board of Realtors. We are a real estate affiliate of the Empire Board of Realtors, which is a African-American real estate trade association. And we are a part of a national organization who is the largest African-American real estate trade association in America. So we are a part of the local chapter, Women's Council. And so as Washika mentioned, yes, our mission is very clear. It's about financial literacy, educating our community and our members. And so our members are not just comprised of women. We do have men that are members as well. So we invite you all to become a part of our organization. So my background is that I am a real estate broker, started out as a real estate agent. Now I'm a broker. I'm owner of a company that my mother actually founded, and she's actually on the call, Diane Allridge. She founded the company and she passed it on down to me. So I bring with you, information and a wealth of knowledge from actually my mentor, my mother, as well as my experience in the industry. And so I just hope that you guys can walk away with information that's extremely valuable, that will be life-changing, that you can put into place right away. And then you can share the information with others that you know along the way.
Okay. All right. Larice.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am attorney Larice Lewis. I am a native of Atlanta, born and raised Peach, one of the few, I guess, that's left these days. I am currently an attorney working with a law firm in Atlanta that primarily handles landlord-tenant actions. But my background is generally bankruptcy and also debt collections. So I have been involved in that area more than anything. I think I've been practicing about 19 years now. And so I did bankruptcy for about 17 of those years. So that's pretty much the bulk of my experience. Had my own firm for a while. I've worked for several of the different large bankruptcy firms. And I'm also currently an adjunct instructor at Atlanta Tech in the paralegal program. And I'm actually this semester teaching a course in bankruptcy. So I will provide you hopefully with some information or answer some of your questions about bankruptcies and maybe how debts affect a person's ability in the home buying situation. So I look forward to answering your questions.
All right, I'm next. Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Studdoff. I'm originally from Jacksonville, Alabama, about an hour and a half down I-20. Been in Atlanta since 1996, so part-time. Well, I consider myself ATLing, part-time ATLing. I work for Bank South Mortgage. I'm a mortgage banker. I've been in the real estate business for over 15 years. I started out my career as a realtor, and I've been working in the mortgage business for over 5 years. Work with my wife. We're a team together, team set up at Bank South Mortgage, and love working with new buyers, working with them, with getting them in first time home buyer programs, and just getting them educated and helping them achieve home ownership. So that's what I love to do. That's what I love to do Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just to help. So just want to welcome you guys here and looking forward to answering any of you guys' questions.
All right, thank you so much. So as you can see, we have the experts here to answer whatever questions you all have. If you have a question for any of our experts, whether it be Shawnee, Larice, or Tim, please put it in the chat box that is provided. You can put it in the chat box and I'll make sure to read your question out for you. At the end of our session, they're going to give you their contact information if you have any further questions that they can assist you with. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started with our Q&A session. Once again, if you guys have a question, you can put it in the chat box. And I do see some questions coming in. So this one is for Larice. How does bankruptcy affect my credit rating?
Okay, so bankruptcy is, first and foremost, it is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a negative on your credit. As far as how it affects your credit, it's going to be what we call a ding. You'll hear people say, well, that's a bad ding or that's a bad spot on my credit. A bankruptcy, no matter what type of bankruptcy you file, is generally going to last on your credit report anywhere from 7 to 10 years. So it does have a long-term effect. However, what we are seeing, especially in the current financial situation, we're seeing where that's not necessarily as bad as it once was. And the main reason for that is due to our current financial situation, a lot of people are having to file bankruptcies. So right now, it's more often than not that you're going to find someone that has some bankruptcy history in their situation. And a lot of times what we have seen with some mortgage lenders, they want to kind of know a little bit more about your debt situation, what caused you to be in a bankruptcy. There are a lot of different reasons for a bankruptcy. It's not always just because you didn't pay a bill, but why did you not pay that bill? Was it due to illness? Was it due to a death, a divorce, a job loss, something like that? Also, they look at what type of bankruptcy did you file? Was it a Chapter 7 and you wiped your debts out and you didn't pay anything back, you just walked away from the debt? Or was it a Chapter 13 case where you paid your debts off? And if it was a Chapter 13 case and you paid the debts off over a 3 or 5 year period, then that actually might help a little because it shows that you were able to reorganize your debt, restructure things, and get back on track and pay your debts back. So a lot of times, even though that first initial look might come off as negative, if that lender does a little bit more of a deeper dive into your situation and you are able to provide more information, it may turn out to not be such a bad thing. But it is a ding, it is a negative, but it can be, from what we've seen, it can be, the negativity of it can be overcome. It doesn't have to be the end all to the situation.
Good information. Okay, hold on. I have a few more people that are popping in. The next question, I think that one is for Tim. When can I purchase after well, this is a two-part question, Tim. Okay. What is a short sale and when can I purchase after a short sale?
So a short sale is when you have a real estate property that a lender is willing to accept less than the amount still owed on the mortgage. So that's something that's worked out between the lender and the actual borrower. With that short sale, you do have guidelines we have to follow for is when you can purchase again, depending on the type mortgage. Say for a conventional loan, you have to have 4 years from completion date. Another part of conventional with extenuating circumstances is 2 years from discharge or 2 years from dismissal. Extenuating circumstance could just like divorce, death, stuff that happens, natural disaster, anything like that is considered an extenuating circumstance. So from that, conventional, it's a 2 year dismissal, 2 year discharge. You can apply for a mortgage. FHA, 2 years from completion date. VA loan is 2 years, and also the USDA is a 3 year wait after a short sale. But those are guidelines that we do have to follow based on the type loan that you're looking to do.
Okay, good. And for those who are just joining us, if you have any questions, you can put them down in the chat box and send them directly to me. I'm under Shawnee's name. This is Washika, but I'm under Shawnee's name. But you can send those questions directly to me. We have a lot coming in. This one I think is for you, Shawnee. Why do I need a real estate agent?
Yeah, so that is a good question. And I tell people, like, say, Would you go to court without a lawyer? And it's
Right.
really just that serious.
Yes.
And and I'm not gonna go to court without a lawyer. I'm gonna tell you that right now, because I'm not the subject matter expert, right? I don't know the ins and outs. I don't understand it. I don't speak the language. That is not my lane. And so, when you're talking about buying a home, that's a big deal. It's exciting, it's fun, it's a big deal for your family. You don't want to go at it alone. When you're selling a home, the same thing. You don't want to go at it alone. You want someone that's going to represent you, understand your interests, represent you, and help you to reach your goals. Now, when it comes to a buyer, you're a buyer out there listening, and you want to buy a home, and you're in your mind, you're a numbers person. So you're like, okay, let me try to figure out how I'm going to allocate my funds for this and for that. And can I even afford an agent? Well, for a buyer, the good news is, and I hope you can hear me well, you don't have to pay a commission. That's not your job. That's not your responsibility. That's for buyers. Buyers, you're not paying a commission. What you're doing is you're identifying a real estate practitioner, an expert in the industry, to represent you and to help you to reach your goal of finding a place to live or finding an investment property or whatever that goal may be. For the seller, you're going to pay commissions, right? Commissions come from you and from your profit, but what you're doing is your profit is going to be, in a lot of cases, much larger than what you're going to pay out to have someone to represent you. So, just think about what I said at first. You wouldn't go to court without a lawyer, right? And you want to find you a subject matter expert that you can trust, that you've been able to explain to them exactly what you're looking for in your consult, that can help you reach your goal.
All right.
Think about what I said at first. You wouldn't go to court without.
I think this one is a two-part question. Let me read it right. What does a discharge mean on a bankruptcy? And then after you answer that one, I think that one is for Larice. And then after you answer that question, I'll ask the second part. But what does discharge mean?
Okay, the discharge is basically the legal end of a bankruptcy. If you file a bankruptcy case, your goal is to get a bankruptcy discharge. That's your ultimate goal. You want the bankruptcy case to end with you getting a discharge. And what that basically means is two different things in a chapter in the two different types of bankruptcies. In a Chapter 7, let me say this, I'm also speaking in terms of bankruptcies. I'm going to only really talk about Chapter 7s or Chapter 13s because those are what are dealt with for consumers or individuals. So that's what would be applying to your situation. So in a Chapter 7 case, a discharge means that you've completed the case. All creditors have been notified of your filing. No creditors have any objections or issues with you getting a discharge, wiping out their debts. There's no other issues that can be found in your case. And as far as the Chapter 7 trustees review of it, you don't have any assets that are out there that's valuable enough to sell off, liquidate, and pay off your creditors. So it's been determined that there's nothing there. There's no money hidden. There's no assets of any value enough to pay off your creditors. So you don't have any money to pay anyone back. So therefore your debts are wiped out or discharged. The difference in that in a Chapter 13 case is, in a Chapter 13 case, the basic point of a Chapter 13 case is to reorganize your debt, restructure your debt in such a way that you can pay off your creditors. So at the end of a Chapter 13 case, you should have paid off the creditors, specifically your priority debts, which mean things like taxes, governmental debts. Secured creditors have paid off, so you would have paid off your car note, furniture bills, things like that. If there are any past due arrears on a mortgage, for instance, that would have been paid off. Everything's been paid off per what it's been structured for the case to pay off. And at that time, your case can discharge or be completed. It's very different from a dismissal. And I think a lot of people may get those terms confused. A discharge of a bankruptcy case means a bankruptcy case ended as it should have. It came to the conclusion that was desired. A dismissal means the case ended prematurely before it was finished. So you want a discharge and not a dismissal. You said there was a second part?
Yeah, there was a second part. How long does the bankruptcy last on my credit report?
Bankruptcy will last on your credit, whether it's a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, anywhere from 7 to 10 years. And the difference between the years is really depending on what type of credit agency or bureau that you're dealing with. Some may report it for longer, some may report it for a shorter time, but it's going to be at least about 7 years before it falls off, as they say. And it's not reported by your creditors, it's actually reported by the court. And it's going to be on there regardless of what happened in your case. So say, for instance, if you did have a bankruptcy case that unfortunately was dismissed or ended prematurely, just because it ended early doesn't mean it's going to come off your credit early. It's going to still be reported on your credit. The result of it will still be reported that it was dismissed, but it's still going to be reported for 7 to 10 years. So it's still going to be that notation that it was filed and that whatever happened, whether it was discharged or dismissed.
Okay. This question is for Tim. How does an apartment eviction or a car repossession affect my mortgage?
On our side, however it's reported by us, reading the credit report, once we, pull your credit report, if that eviction or repo is, reported by the, just reported in general, and it shows up in your credit report on your collection account, our guidelines is whatever that amount is, if it's over $2,000, we have to count 5% of that against you for as a debt to income ratio. So depending on what the balance is, that'll go into your debt to income ratio and might affect your, price point, or depending on what you're looking at for as house-wise. But it could be a huge debt, it could not be a huge debt, but that's the only way it'll affect us on the mortgage side. We just have to account for 5% of that if it's over $2,000. So if it's $5,000, we got to take 5% of that and count that towards the debt to income.
Okay. All right, cool. And for those who are just joining us, if you have a question for any of our panelists, you can put it in the chat box and I'll make sure to get to it for you. This question doesn't say who it's for. I'm assuming this one is going to be for you, Shani. What is an appraisal? What is the difference between an appraisal and a home inspection?
So yes, there's a difference between an appraisal and a home inspection. And this is that real estate language that I was mentioning before that, everyone wouldn't just know right off the bat. So when you're purchasing real estate, you may have an appraisal conducted on the real estate, especially if you're financing. When you're buying a real estate cash, it's not required to have an appraisal, but when you're financing, definitely for sure. So an appraisal is where a qualified licensed appraiser goes out to get an objective value of the real estate. They're looking for the value, because what's happening is you may have a list price for the real estate, but the value of it does not match the list price. It could actually be valued for more than list price or less. So when you're financing, when you're saying, hey, bank, hey, Tim, hey, can I have $250,000? And Tim is like, well, let's see, let's see if we can do that. And let's see with whatever you're purchasing, let's see if it really has the value that the contract says. So you're trying to find the value of the real estate. You can have an appraisal on jewelry, an appraisal on a vehicle. But in this case, we're talking about real estate. So you want to find out the value. So a home inspection is really, really important when you're buying real estate, especially if you're buying a dwelling, right? Because you want to know what's going on with it. And again, you want to hire a subject matter expert, someone who understands, what a house does and what it's not supposed to do, and what things should look like and what they shouldn't look like. And so a home inspection, is really, really important, because you want to know what's going on with the home. You can find out in a home inspection if the home is about to fall apart. If so, you have the right to walk away. So depending on how your contract was negotiated, you have a right to walk away and say, hey, we don't want to deal with that. So a home inspection is a qualified licensed inspector to walk around the home, go inside the home, opening up doors, looking at what's going on in the attic, looking at what's going on in the crawl space or the basement, checking out the siding, making sure the windows are going up and down what it's supposed to, checking the water pressure, all different things that, you as a consumer wouldn't necessarily think about doing, right? You're hiring someone to inspect the home, inspect the dwelling, to let you know, because you hired them, they will let you know in a nice report, itemized and easy to read with pictures, what's going on with that home. And in a lot of cases, you can go back and renegotiate with the seller, whether it be, owner occupant or a bank or what have you, or a new construct or a builder. Go back and say, hey, we found some things in this inspection report that, is questionable, and we're concerned, and can you address those things? So a lot of times having an inspection is a good way to go back and renegotiate, and a good way to have a peace of mind too about what you are seeking to purchase. So yeah, there are two different things. And when you're financing, you're going to have both. Think of having both going on. And then there's also a fee associated with it too. So an appraisal and a home inspection are costs that you have to be ready to absorb. And the prices vary, but I know that people are probably looking at this video, this meeting out of state. So we're here in Georgia. So if you're out of state, the prices of appraisals and inspections, it just really varies. But here in Georgia, they can range from as low as an appraisal $500 on up, a home inspection $400 on up.
Okay. All right. I don't know who this one is for. I guess you guys can just kind of jump in. How do student loans affect the home buying process?
I'll jump in. For us, if you're doing an FHA loan, this is across the board. We have to take 1%, whatever your student balance is, and count that against you for your debt to income ratio. So that's a guideline we have to follow. And unfortunately, this happens a lot. You leave school, you get a good job, but you still have that student debt that's following you, and sometimes it hinders you from qualifying for the amount of house that you would like. So it's tough. And I deal with that daily, but that is a guideline we have to follow. On a conventional loan, this is another option that's out there on a conventional loan, which is a tougher loan than an FHA loan for us getting the approval. If you're on an income-based repayment plan, we can actually use that amount and count that amount that you are on. And sometimes, depending on what that amount is, it's less than the 1% if it was FHA, and we can use that income-based for your debt to income ratio. So sometimes doing that route right there will help you get more price point as opposed to an FHA loan. But the caveat is getting a conventional approval, which is a little tighter, stringent than the FHA loan. So that's the difference between the student loan debt.
Okay. And the follow-up to that was, what is the debt to income ratio?
So debt to income ratio is when we divide your monthly debt payments by your gross monthly income. That's how we determine your ability to repay your mortgage. So it's a percentage that we use. Once we put all your information in the computer for its income, debt to income ratio is uploaded. That determines your price point, max amount. So that's what a debt to income ratio is. And that's what we use daily. That's how we dictate price point. So what drives price point is either your income or your debt. One of those either have to decrease or increase. That's what drives price point of your house.
Okay.
Ashika, can I add a little bit as far as bankruptcy? Because I wanted to make sure people are clear when it comes down to a bankruptcy scenario, and concerning student loans. Student loans in most cases are federal, meaning that you receive your student loan from the federal government, not necessarily private loans. And so in a bankruptcy scenario, student loan debts are a mystery. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people think, well, it's a debt like other debts. I can file a bankruptcy and have it dealt with in the bankruptcy. Not so much. They're not a lot like taxes. They're not a lot like mortgages, but then in some ways they're very similar. You cannot get away from a student loan, a federal student loan. So when it comes down to a bankruptcy scenario, if you have significant student loan debt, a bankruptcy is mainly going to postpone the inevitable with that debt. You can't generally discharge it, meaning you can't wipe that debt out in a Chapter 7. In a Chapter 13 case, you will more than likely not pay on it because of the type of debt that it is, since it's such a long-term debt in most cases. Generally, what's going to happen in a Chapter 13 situation, a student loan will be what we call deferred, meaning that you're not required to make payments. They understand and recognize that you're in a bankruptcy situation, so you're not required to make payments during the time that you're in that bankruptcy. So that could be for 3 or 5 years. You have the benefit of not having to make a student loan payment. That sounds good, and that can be good, and it can be helpful in other ways in getting you back on track otherwise financially. But as far as like Tim was saying, when it comes down to your debt to income ratio and how that's calculated, what's going to be happening with your student loan, the interest will probably continue to accrue, which means your debt for your student loan is going to more than likely increase during that time that you're in the bankruptcy. There are some programs where they will not, but there are others where it will continue. It just kind of depends on what's going on with the federal government, unfortunately, at that time when this comes about. But in some cases, you can get a deferment or a forbearance where they're going to basically let you leave the student loan alone for a while, get a breather, not make payments. But it could be a situation where that interest will still continue to accrue. And if that's the case, that's going to affect you, like Tim was saying, with your debt to income ratio, because that's going to calculate into a larger debt for your student loans. So be very mindful or careful. If a student loan debt is one of the reasons why you might be considering a bankruptcy or something, make sure you get the good information about how that's really going to be affected.
All right, the next question is for Attorney Lewis. Can I still buy a house if I had prior evictions?
Yes, and it's really going to depend on, again, like I said earlier, right now, especially in this financial situation that we have across the board, there are more people out there than not that have had either a bad credit period or even a bankruptcy history. And it's really going to depend on a couple of things in addition to the credit rating. But like Tim said, they're going to look at your income as well. What is your income looking like? And possibly what was the cause or what was the reason behind the eviction? Like, for instance, case in point right now, we have a lot of people due to COVID that lost jobs or lost sources of income or decreased income, and they're facing evictions. Well, what's going to happen when they get out? When COVID, when the world opens back up, what's going to happen to everyone? And so if you have an eviction, it's really going to depend on who you're also trying to rent from now currently and what are they looking at. You'll find some landlords are going to want to know, well, what happened? What caused you to get here? You may have better luck with a private landlord. And what I mean by that is maybe you're trying to actually rent a house from someone, an individual, rather than a landlord of an apartment complex. Or you're dealing with a property management company or an investor more so than a straight landlord, that you see from the apartment complexes that you see everywhere. If you're dealing with those and you're dealing with a more personal situation and they're willing to understand and hear what your situation is and what caused you to get there, that should come into play, and that might make a difference as to how willing they'll be able to rent to you regardless of that eviction on your credit. Also, it may be determined, they may look at how old that eviction is. Was it an eviction from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago? When was it? Another trick that people have utilized is if you know you're facing an eviction and you're trying to find somewhere, try to find it before the eviction hits your credit.
Right.
If it's not there, and they run your application before the eviction actually hits your credit, then it's a done deal there. They can't go back. Give you a little hint also as far as how it comes into effect with the bankruptcy. An eviction and a foreclosure on your credit can have sometimes the same damage to your credit as a bankruptcy because they look at that. But think about it also from terms as what are you trying to do? If you're trying to rent another place and your bankruptcy was due to, say you had medical bills or something, and it didn't involve an eviction. So you go to someone, you're trying to rent from them, and they're looking at your credit and say, wait a minute, you got an eviction here, you had a bankruptcy. What happened? Okay, well, tell them what happened. If they see that, well, there were some medical issues here. Okay, so that explains your bankruptcy away almost right there, because it wasn't that you weren't trying to pay your bills, you were ill or something to that nature. So that could be something to think about. An eviction is a bad thing, to answer that first question. But it is, again, like I said earlier, with the bankruptcy, I think it's something that, especially in these times, you can possibly overcome it.
Okay. And I think you might have answered this next question that's coming in, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And for those who are just logging in, if you have a question for Attorney Lewis, Shani, or Tim, make sure you send it to me in the chat box and I will ask it for you. But this question is, which one is worse on your credit, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, or an eviction?
Okay, I kind of, sort of, but I'll just go into it a little bit more. They all, I think, are negatives, first and foremost. And it depends on what it is you're trying to do. Bankruptcy would be considered maybe the worst of them because it encompasses all of them. But again, like I said, with this current financial climate, it can be overcome. And also, depending on what type of bankruptcy you filed, that can also maybe help you. If you can show to the possible lender that you're talking to that, yeah, I had to file a bankruptcy 5 years ago. I filed a Chapter 13 case and I paid my case off. I got a discharge. It was a successful bankruptcy case. I reorganized my debt. My income's back on track. I now am debt free. I don't have any debts because I paid all of them off in my Chapter 13 case. That might actually be a plus for you. That might be helpful to you. Bankruptcy is going to be on your credit 7 to 10 years. A foreclosure, about as long. A foreclosure is a little bit more specific, I think, and Tim can maybe answer that. If you're going to try to purchase a home and a home lender sees that you've had a foreclosure, then that brings some more questions to that lender, because that's specific. That means you had a prior mortgage that you didn't pay off. You defaulted on your prior mortgage. So that gives them reasons to question, well, why, what happened here? Whereas maybe you filed a bankruptcy case because you had bad car debt or medical bills. That's a little different. They may not be that concerned about that. Like I said, with evictions, same type of thing. A lot of times landlords are going to kind of see, especially now when it's so hard to find landlords and people that are able to rent right now, they're going to maybe want to know a little bit more than just what's on paper. And Tim can maybe speak to how the lenders look at a foreclosure.
Right. So with foreclosure, just we treated the same guidelines with a foreclosure. Conventional is a 7-year wait for foreclosure. FHA 3 years from the date. VA is 2 years and USDA is 3 years. So same scenario, the guidelines we have to follow. But what we use is an automated system, automated approval system. That's when we run you through for approval. So if that catches it, I usually catch it prior to for us when I'm reading your credit report and seeing what's going on. So that's my question to you, like I said, what was the circumstance? What happened? Just talking to you, give me a little bit of feedback, what's going on. A lot of people like to run away from stuff, but you got to tackle it head on. You got to, don't wait. You could possibly have short sold your house prior to going to a foreclosure. So it's all about, talking to your lender or your current bank or lender. Don't, answer those calls, just be upfront with them. So that by doing that helps out early on instead of waiting to get later on and then you're in trouble. So I always advise to just hit it head on, just see what's going on. So once I do my consultations, that's what I ask. I ask what happened here, what happened with this eviction or this repo or this foreclosure, something. If I have to go to my underwriters and ask them, look, this is what's going on. Could be extenuating circumstance. So like I said, each case is different. So, but yeah, each of these Chapter 7, 13 foreclosure short sale, they do have guidelines that we have to follow. And this, like I say, it's based on the individual. So that's how I look at it once I pull your credit report and read everything.
Okay.
Attorney Lewis, I have a question.
Okay.
When it comes to Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, and you're talking about discharge, At what point does the discharge happen for both of those?
Okay, for Chapter 7, generally Chapter 7 cases are very short. And the reason for that is because all that the Chapter 7 trustee is doing is analyzing your assets to see is there anything there that they can liquidate and sell to pay off the creditors that you owe. And in most cases, there is not, so they don't last very long. So a Chapter 7 case will probably last anywhere from 4 to 6 months, maybe 8 or 9 if it's long. If there's some major assets, like if the person has real estate that they own but no mortgage on it, and they may have land there that needs to be sold to pay off the creditors, it may take a little longer because the trustee may take time for that sale.
Oh,
so that's a Chapter 7 case. The Chapter 13 case, however, generally lasts anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So depending on how much debt you have and also your income and how you're able to pay that debt off, that will determine how long your case is going to last. So they're generally scheduled to last about 5 years because that gives a person enough time or a good amount of time to pay it off and still be able to live. Otherwise, you don't want the payments to be so high. And so I usually would say 3 years would be kind of quick. And if it's not a whole lot of debt, but it's generally, we're seeing about 4 or 5 year long cases. And that's when they'll get the discharge in a Chapter 13 case.
okay. And then Tim, once it's discharged, is that when the clock starts to tick? So you mentioned if it was a conventional, if the person foreclosed on their home and it was a conventional loan that they foreclosed and it takes 7 years. So would it take 7 years from when that Chapter 13 discharged?
Correct, that date. So on your credit report, it will have actual date when it was discharged or dismissed. So that's the date we go by. So whatever that date is, the year, that 7 years kicks from that for a conventional. And then, now depending on what kind of loan you're looking to do. So if you're FHA, it's going to take 3 years from that date of foreclosure. So depending on what loan we're looking to do, that's going to dictate which time frame and how long it will take for us to, to apply and to get a mortgage. So that data is key once we look at that, look at the credit report.
And keep in mind the dismissal is a little different. So the dismissal can happen whenever. So if it's dismissed, that could be a shorter time than a discharge.
Attorney Lewis, I got a question about the dismissal. I've seen discharge on credit reports and I've seen dismissals. And you said earlier we shoot for a discharge. What are some reasons people have dismissals?
Different things. In most cases, in a Chapter 13 case, it's usually something else happened later in the case. Like say, when they filed the Chapter 13, they were working.
Okay.
And say they may have lost their job during the course of the Chapter 13 and they could no longer make the Chapter 13 payments. So the case was dismissed. Or they may have gotten a divorce during the course of the Chapter 13 and their financial situation completely collapsed. It's generally due to a collapse. Okay. I've also seen it sometimes where they will voluntarily dismiss a case if some other financial opportunity comes up that might work out better for them. And they, like I've seen it where sometimes they've worked out something with an individual creditor that works better to their situation than the bankruptcy is. And rather than having to deal with everything through the bankruptcy, they let the case be dismissed or they voluntarily dismiss the case and deal with that creditors directly and move on from there. A lot of times what we tell them in those situations is keep in mind, you filed this bankruptcy now and you're still going to have to deal with it on your credit. Because like you said, you deal with the dates that are on your credit report. So the credit report is going to show when the case was filed and opened, right, as well as when it ended. And then it's going to show whether it was dismissed or discharged. So that's going to tell them, well, something happened here. So like you say, you're looking at it. If you see that it's dismissed, that might make you question a little bit more, well, what happened here? Right. Rather than if it was discharged and you see that it lasted about 5 years, you might have a good idea. Well, okay, you actually finished your bankruptcy case. But if you started it and it was a 13 and then ended in 3 years, that's kind of curious. Well, what happened there?
Right. Okay.
Okay. So this next one is going to be, I guess, Tim, you and Shawnee both can kind of tag team this one. And, Danae, you can as well. Are any of the experts available to review individual credit situations and give consultations or recommendations on a plan for home ownership? This person says, I have been paying bills on time, but my credit score has basically been stuck. So do you all have any advice on getting that credit score up, and are you available for an individual consultation?
So with credit, are you looking at, well, I can talk to, you know, once we done, maybe sometimes we can just talk to her individually with credit reports. You know, sometimes it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So I can be able to talk to you and speak with you and see what's going on, so we can take a look at it. You will have to, well, I can talk to you off the record, you know, to see what's going on. So that's not a problem. I can do that.
So what we'll do is at the end of this session, we will post Tim's contact information so that you can do an individual consultation.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So this next question, Shani, did you want to add anything to that? Because they did ask specifically about the path to home ownership.
Yeah. So that's really when someone, and I'm happy to consult. Yes. We can schedule something. I can send up my calendar, and I'm happy to consult, you know, and we can try to figure something out there, you know. But yeah, usually what happens is when I speak to someone, I have a conversation with them, and then I decide in my mind, like, which lender do I feel like would be better supportive of them and their unique situation. And then I just kind of pass you on to someone that, you know, we work with, someone that I can vouch for, someone that I know that's going to take care of you like how I would like them to. So, and Tim is certainly one of the people on our team that we trust and that actually wants to help to get you there, right? It's going to answer your questions, take some time out to talk to you, 15, 30 minutes to talk to you and try to figure out, okay, what's a good strategy for you? So absolutely, I'm here to consult and to be of service and to educate as best I can. And if I can't, I just pass you on to someone who I know will take good care of you. Absolutely.
Okay, good. And that's great to know, because a lot of times clients don't know that they can do a consultation. It's best to sit down with an expert, ask whatever questions you need to ask, and get the answers, you know, that you want. A lot of times we don't get what we need because we don't ask for it. So, so yes, they will definitely sit down and do a consultation with you guys. For people that are just logging in, you can ask any questions in the chat box, and I'll make sure it gets to our experts. At the end of this session, we will be giving out their contact information if you have any questions for Shani or for Tim or for Larice. This question, you may have already answered it, but I think I'm going to ask it again. Can I still buy a house after I filed bankruptcy? I think that's for Larice.
Definitely. I like to tell those people that I've represented in bankruptcy cases, please don't think about a bankruptcy as the end of everything. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be a new beginning. And matter of fact, a lot of people call a bankruptcy a fresh start. It gives you a new start, cleans the slate, and lets you start off on a better standing. So please don't think of it as the end of it. If anything, it gives you a little bit more time to get things in order and get things a little bit more stable and just stabilize your foundation so that you can get into a new situation on better footing, whether that's a new home, a new vehicle, getting rid of tax debt, whatever. It can be a positive rather than a negative in some ways. And I think, Tim, like you already said, you probably see people who've had a bankruptcy in their history. And it makes, what I've also seen is, especially when they've had a Chapter 13 situation, sometimes it makes them a little bit more, more responsible as far as it goes. Was now they know, you know, what's involved, what's required of them, and they can focus a little bit more on that, what's needed to make sure that their mortgage is sound and stable. So I think it's definitely, I tell people all the time, please don't think that this means you can't buy a house. It may take you a little longer to get there, but it's not going to stop that for you.
Correct.
I'm glad you said that. That was one thing Shani and I was talking about yesterday. A lot of people kind of shy away or be, you know, they get embarrassed or they're ashamed of having a bankruptcy. But you look at people like Donald Trump, they filed bankruptcy 1,000 times. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. And to your point, you know, Louise, it could be a clean start. So you can turn it into something that could be positive for you.
Right. Like I think life happens, stuff happens.
Yes,
So
life happens. And I mean, and I hear that a lot. I've had clients that have come in tears because they're embarrassed. I've had clients, I always think about a client I had years ago who worked for her church and was very active in her church. And she was terrified because in a Chapter 13 case, the way your payments are made, it comes from your paycheck.
right.
So that means her church was going to know, or at least in her mind, her whole church was going to know that she'd filed a bankruptcy. And she was embarrassed about that. And it was like pulling teeth to get her to see, you're about to lose your home. You're about to lose your car. This could save your home and your car and be able so that you can get to work and you can get to church.
Exactly.
So, you know, after a while, and she saw there are things there that you have to come to grips with. And a lot of times what I've explained to people is this is a way that you are now taking charge of your life.
Right.
And taking responsibility for your situation rather than, like Tim mentioned before, you walked away from it, ignored it, or just let it fester and get worse. You said, wait a minute, I need to stand my ground and take care of this and handle it. And that is a plus. That means that you're going to just take it, you know, take responsibility for it and take care of it. And this is a way to take care of it. So I try to counsel people, so to speak, or advise people that don't beat yourself up so bad. It might just have been bad luck or just bad misfortune that happened to you that brought you here. It's not necessarily something that you purposely did or something that you did wrong. So rather than harp on that or focus on the negative of it and that you did something wrong and that you're being punished, no, take this opportunity to just calm yourself. Wait, see what's out there, get yourself back on track, and then get back out there. If you have this goal and you've been wanting to own a home, that's not taken away from you. You can still do that. It may take a little longer, but you know, that's what they say. Sometimes the longer stuff takes, the more, you know, more valuable that it is.
Yeah.
To piggyback off that, I had maybe a year or two ago, if I'm not mistaken, I had a buyer had I think 2 Chapter 7s within 10 years. First time didn't learn the lesson, came back maybe, you know, a few years later, stuck to it, did it, and was able to get a loan, you know. So you learn from your first mistake, just to, you know, you got out of it, but then you jump right back in the same situation. So extenuating circumstances happened, stuck with it, and, you know, she was able to apply and get a mortgage and get a house. So, I mean, like I say, things happen, I just hit it head on. You know, that's what we're here for, help you, guide you, and, you know, answer all your questions, anything like that. So, right, like you said, it was, like I say, people used to look at it as being embarrassed about it. So it's not an embarrassment thing.
I mean, and especially when you think of things, especially like what the situation that we're in right now with COVID and the way COVID hit so many people, you can't possibly be embarrassed because the person on your left and the person on your right is in the same situation.
Correct.
A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people lost people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that is enough to have to bring you to this type of situation. So it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's nothing to feel guilty about.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And can I just add to that too, you know, when Washika and I were talking about what can we do, what kind of information can we do to bring to people that's pertinent and valuable right now in this moment. And it was really truly a no-brainer, you know, but we were thinking to ourselves, will people even want to be on this Zoom? Would they be embarrassed? Yeah, like would they be embarrassed? Are they going to tune in and get this information for free? Or will it be just us on here as the experts just sitting here talking to one another? And I'm just so pleased to see that people are tuning in and paying attention and asking questions, because it's nothing to be embarrassed about. People do this all the time and they bounce back from it. Life happens. It is what it is. As long as you're here on this earth, you're going to experience the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys. But it's about how you got through it. I feel, you know, so, and I've sold houses to clients that they have great stories to tell, very colorful stories to tell about their lives. And, but they had a goal and they, had the information and felt comfortable enough to kind of move forward and work towards the purchase of a home, or even like an investment property. You can do it. Yeah.
All right, good. Great information, guys. And I think that is all of the questions we had. Unless anybody has a last minute question. One of the things I wanted to say is that we have to get into a place where we change our mindset, just kind of piggybacking off of this whole session. We have to change our mindset. We just can't stay in the same place. We talk about people being embarrassed about financial hardships, and life happens, but just get yourself to a place where you just don't stay there. Don't stay wallowing in that debt. Don't stay wallowing with that credit score. When we bring sessions like this for all of the participants, just keep up with us, because we are going to keep on doing these sessions. If you know anybody that could benefit from this information, make sure you invite them. The best tool is education.
Right.
The key to getting past it is getting the knowledge. So when we bring the experts, that's your opportunity to come on here and ask whatever questions you may have. And I have another one coming in. One more question. Okay, let me see. If trying to purchase in 2 years, having had all of the aforementioned hardships and a divorce, how can you start to build credit? So I'm assuming this person has had an eviction, has had a bankruptcy, and has had a divorce. How can you start to build credit?
Well, I'll speak from experience. So, a lot of times when I talk about stuff, anyone who knows me, I'm talking about it from experience. I can't talk about something else because I don't know. So I'll just share from experience, and I got a recent surprise. I was like, whoa. So I actually filed bankruptcy in the past. And, and I was just so ashamed. Oh, I was just like, oh, Lord, I don't want to do this. I'm a terrible person, all of that. And so my mother, Diane, she's the founder of the company. She says, Shani, there's life after foreclosure. There's life after bankruptcy. And she go on and on. My mom, she just get into her preacher mode. And I'm like, but you don't even get it. And I'm too young for this. Whatever, right? At this point, I'm practicing real estate. So I'm really embarrassed because I'm like, here I am supposed to be out here, having it together. But life happened.
Right.
Life happened. And I don't know what else to say about that. But what I did was I just kind of had a plan in mind, and it was a long-term goal. I didn't really say, oh, overnight I'm going to be here. I had a long-term plan. And what I did personally was I began to save money, just a little bit, save money up. I began to become more comfortable with having a credit card because I was kind of shell-shocked about even anything credit. I acquired a credit card through my bank, which was Associated Credit Union. I acquired a credit card through them, and it wasn't a whole lot of money on it because I guess they were like, ma'am, we don't even. But I got a credit card, and I had that little thing, and it was working on it, paying everything on time, and stuff like that. And so over time, my credit score would increase. And I figured it was increasing because I was doing what I needed to do. And I got a department store card, I got a Best Buy card, and for some reason my credit score increased. I don't know, because the credit stuff is truly a mystery, right? All I know for sure is that you got to pay your stuff on time, dog.
Exactly.
And you don't want to have your credit cards maxed out. I kept my credit cards at a minimum, and I also spoke to people that knew and understood stuff. So I spoke to credit specialists. I spoke to other people in the industry about, it's a secret now, I filed bankruptcy. What should I do? And I had those tough conversations, and I just did it over time. And then once I hit my 10-year mark, my credit score jumped up in such a way. I was like, Mama, look at my score. It jumped up, but it was going up increasingly over time. And I was just doing what, the right thing. I acquired debt, a little debt, and I was paying on it on time. So that's what I did personally. But I know that Attorney Lewis and Tim can add to it as well.
I agree. I think what you did, that whole plan was a good one. You try to get and pace yourself.
Right.
Don't go overboard with it. Get a little something here and there. I know there are some in my industry that have said if you get what they call a secured credit card, that might
Right.
be helpful.
Yep.
Because it shows that you can handle a card that has attachment to an asset as well. But the key, like you said, is as you acquire debt, just pay it off.
Right.
Don't let it linger. Don't let it get overboard. Don't get too much. Keep in mind, like Tim said, the debt to income ratio. Keep that in mind. You want your debts to be lower, so but it is something, it's the whole point about it is patience and time. It's going to take a little time. And then also be mindful in of who you're talking to.
Right.
Seek out lenders. Don't just get that particular car because that's what's being advertised on TV.
Right.
Research it first. See if there what benefits you get out of it. If it's a car that has some additional things to it, say if it's a car that you can get travel miles on or something, that might be something that's beneficial to you. So and if you think you can be traveling, you can be adding on some things while you're building on that. And the key is so that when creditors look at your credit report now, they may see that ding from 5 years ago or 2 years ago, but they also see that you've done very well since then. And that helps. So just keep working on it and just going to have to be patient with it.
Right.
And eventually it'll take care of itself, I think.
Right. Yeah, like you said, you first and foremost, you have to have a plan, and stick with that plan. And you'd be surprised how many people I run across don't have any credit cards. Just piggyback what you said, Sean. No cards, I don't believe in it, but you have to have that established credit. The bureaus like to see some type of trade line, so that is a plus. Just with the secure cards out every week, I tell somebody you get your secure card. Main thing is pay it down. The utilization rate is the key. Keep that utilization rate between 10 to 20% each month. Over a period of time, that your score increase. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not an overnight story. A lot of people call me tomorrow. Might just call and say, "How can I get my credit score to increase 100 points?" It doesn't work like that. It takes time. So,
Right.
develop a plan, and like I said, I'm here to help you with that plan. I'm the type of person, if you apply, and I look at your score, if you're not there, then I'm not going to throw you away. Like a lot of lenders will throw you away, don't have anything else to do with you. I have the ability to do what's called a simulator. I can simulate what it would take to help increase your score, not a credit repair, but just a simulation. If you stick with that simulation plan, maybe a year, 2 years, it'll help increase your score. So I do follow up, and as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, your score should increase. So yeah, just first and foremost, just have a plan.
Good advice. And just to kind of piggyback off of that, I know for myself, I had to close my business, downsize and close my business. So it really messed my credit up. And I was in the mind frame of, as long as I'm paying these bills, it's okay. No, you need to pay them on time.
Oh yeah.
I learned that the hard way. So that's like the biggest part of your score is making sure you pay the bills on time. My mindset was, as long as I'm paying it, it doesn't matter when they get it. No, it matters. So make sure you pay the bills on time. And then I consolidated. I consolidated my debt and just paid one bill, and I was able to make that payment on time. And slowly but surely, my credit score did start to creep up. So yeah, okay.
Exactly.
All right, so thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. Hopefully we was able to answer all of your questions and give you guys some great information. I'm reading some wonderful feedback. So I'm glad you all were able to get what you came for. I am going to let all of our panelists give you a last little piece of advice along with their contact information. And they can tell you whatever they are able to kind of help you out with. So for those who wanted to have some individual consultations, you can take down their contact information as well. But I'm going to let them leave you with a little bit of advice. And I guess we'll start with Shani.
Okay. So, and this is what I tell anybody who I speak with, right? Be sure that when you decide you want to make a life-changing decision, that you speak with a subject matter expert. SME, 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 right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to talk to your mom and dad. You're going to talk to your cousin. You're going to talk to all these people. Now you telling them all your business, see? But do they really know? And, you know, so you want to buy a house, speak to a real estate agent that you've vetted, right? You're concerned about bankruptcy and all that stuff. Go and speak to an attorney, set up a consultation, whether it's a fee attached to it or not. Talk to the subject matter expert. You want to talk about lending, you speak to a lender that's been doing it for some time. And when you speak to them, you vet them and you ask them specific questions, right? You write these questions down. My favorite number is 3. Write down 3 great questions. Let the conversation just flow nicely, right? Vet them. And then, you know, at that point you can decide, hey, I want to work with this person, or, I trust them, I value them. And then you can move forward and you can feel confident, right? You can feel confident in what you're getting ready to do. When I decided to file bankruptcy, I had to feel comfortable because I always have tons of questions. That's just me. I had to feel comfortable. And once I felt comfortable, I was good. So just make sure you identify a subject matter expert to help you with whatever the topic may be in your life.
Okay. All right, Larice.
That she said it all there. I think you do need to make sure that you research, think about it, think your choices through, make sure that you have choices, see what your choices are. Bankruptcy is not the only option. I try to tell people use it as your last resort, because it is damaging. It is not it's very restrictive, and it's nothing that anyone really wants to do, but it is an option to consider and can use it as an option. So know your other options. Talk to people in the industry. Generally bankruptcy firms will give consultations for free. It's a free consultation for you to find out, is this what I need to do? By all means, do not file a bankruptcy case by yourself. Please get an attorney to help you. It is not an easy process, and you need someone who knows how it works to help you. Don't fall into what we said earlier, the negativity of it. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel bad about your debt situation. Things happen, life happens, and the key is to deal with it, be patient with it, and move on past it.
Okay.
Just piggyback off of you guys, both of you hit it head on. Just have a plan, and it's a process. You you just don't wake up overnight and say, I want to buy a house tomorrow. It takes time. You got to plan it out. If you're renting, knowing your lease is up, how much you want to save. I have a lot of people that, going back to the scared part, or scared to have your credit pulled because you don't know. You don't know. So you're just hoping it's going to be good. You got to jump in. You never know until you try. So I always advise to, let me go ahead and do the application. Let me pull your credit and see where you are. You might be ready right now, or you might not be. So I always just don't put it off. Go ahead and try, get your plan together. And like I say, it's a process, and I'm here to help you out, answer any of your questions, via email or text or call. So just thank you guys for coming in, and I appreciate you.
All right, so I put all of their email addresses are in the chat box. So if you guys want, you can just go ahead and jot down their contact information. And as I said, once again, make sure you stay tuned, because we will be bringing some financial literacy seminars to you on occasion. We want to try to do them like once a month. So make sure you guys stay tuned. If you know anybody that could benefit from the information that we have to share, make sure you tell them about them when they come up. Okay. So thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we will see you all next time. Have a great day.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Have a good one.